Real Gamer News.
Oh, yeah.
Should multiplayer games cost $60 still? Now, I know you guys know off the bat what games I'm thinking of. What games am I thinking of?
There's about
Titanfall,
3.
Titanfall, Evolve, Destiny. No, I'm talking multiplayer only games. So no, I'm not talking about Call of Duty. Right now,
Battlefield, Titanfall.
I'm talking about multiplayer only games. Like I said, another time. So we're talking about Titanfall, Destiny, Evolve, and games like that have come recently. They come down for $60. You get no story mode or a little tiny campaign thing. In Destiny's case, it's sort of a little different than that because you sort of only have a story mode, but it's adapted into like a miniature Borderlands thing, except it's just sort of like these smaller maps where you kind of run through these, very well designed battle gunfights with all different kinds of enemies, and you just level up and level up. But the thing, let's take about these games one at a time. Let's just start right off the bat with Destiny, because I know that's the one we've all spent the most time in out of those three.
Oh yeah, especially after release.
Right. And so with Destiny, I kind of feel like the beta and the alphas felt so good because that satisfying feeling of going from level 1 to like level 3 and then to like, level 7 and stuff, it felt good and stuff, but then ever since the game hit, I would say maybe level 14 or so, it's sort of just like a really slow statistical grind to where you level up a little bit and then you get a little bit more powerful, like maybe 2% more powerful, and then every single enemy that's around you, you have to fight them at a 2% more powerful mission in order to keep proceeding. Except here's the catch, on Destiny, all of the maps and all the missions are pretty much the same. There's like a few little scripts where the enemies pop out and from this cave instead of that cave or whatever, and that's like really rare and few and far between. And then there's some situations where they're like, oh, now you're going to go into this path in this room, but oh, this time that boss is over there. And they kind of even stopped doing that too with their weekly changes, which I thought was weird. But and you know what was ridiculous too? A lot of the weekly and daily stuff were the same thing at the same time. So when you went and did the daily, and then you go to the weekly, they're literally the same exact map and the same exact enemies, same exact bosses. The only difference is one of them's harder. So that's kind of weird, okay? And it's multiplayer only in the sense that you can play it by yourself, but it's a multiplayer mode that was designed for multiplayer, and that's evident by the fact that you're repeating the maps.
It's easy to tell that it was definitely made for multiplayer because in order to even play any of the multiplayer modes, like say the Nightfall or the weekly or even just the Crucible, you need to have Xbox Live Gold or PlayStation Plus. If you don't have either of that,
Gold
you have
or
to play
Plus to play Destiny anyway.
No, you don't.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm positive. You can play Destiny without it, but you're limited to the campaign. No multiplayer aspect is allowed.
Right.
Point of that.
So technically, people might be saying to us right now, like, "Oh, why are you guys hating on Destiny or whatever?" And here's the thing: with all the time that's passed from then to now, there has been, with the exception of DLC, which costed more money, there has been 0 new maps for free. So if you're just, you can run through the campaign in the first month or less easily, maybe a week if you're like just addicted and you don't play anything else. Would you say that's accurate, Kyle and Tristan?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, between a week and a month, depending how hardcore you're playing it, and then you've played every single piece of Destiny pretty much. That's free. And then if you
I don't hate them for it. I don't hate them, but I can see where some gamers are coming from, but where others are concerned. It's just a clash in who's wrong because Destiny feels as if it's so much work for them, but more.
Can you repeat that? It's breaking up.
From what I've read and what I've seen, people want more from Destiny, but Destiny saying, "Oh, we can only give so much." So we waste so
Right,
much
yeah.
time
They're
because
trying to,
we're limited.
yeah, they're trying to pace the game. And you know what? I'm gonna say it right now on the air. That excuse from Bungie is bullshit. They can only give so much. They're giving literally nothing. Just because they give, you know, a rearranged script where a couple enemies jump out of that left side instead of the right side, and they put a few more of this type of enemy instead of that type of enemy. That literally took them fucking 5 minutes. And they didn't give you any new maps, and they give you some new guns, yeah, but I mean, you gotta upgrade the shit out of them, which requires replaying all the old shit over and over again, and then patrolling over and over again. This is like people have called it an MMO and stuff, and it's only an MMO in the fact that they make you grind, and they're making you grind. Except when an MMO, when you grind, there's all these different weird little side missions that you have to do to grind. You don't just go, oh, I'm just gonna run over this story 100 times. I'm just gonna do the story of Destiny 100 times, and then I'm grinding. That's just like silly. Like imagine if you bought Killzone 2 and you were like, oh, I'm just gonna beat the campaign 17 times, and each time it gets 1% harder. Would anybody like be down for that? I don't think so.
No.
No, but everybody turned it into something about grinding. I mean, at the end of the campaign, I think we reached level 18 and was almost to light level, and I definitely did a lot of Crucible and a lot of bounties to get up to where I was in light level so fast. But people turned it into about grinding, especially with Loot Cave. They grinded it to the point to where Bungie actually had to step in and remove it.
Yeah, that's
And it
not
got
really
so
grinding.
insane
That
that
that was more farming. That's exploiting. That's sort of like basically cheating. And yeah, it's silly that Destiny was broken that much in the first place that they were able to do that in the first place. It's kind of funny and not in a good way. And then, and I'm not coming from a weird point of view here. I paid 90 for it and I think it's a good game. My problem is I don't
it's
think
not
it's worth I don't think it was worth that 90. The DLCs that they're putting out feel like free updates. They feel tiny and they're only interesting if you're at the latest edge of the level and you got to get with 6 guys and you got to do everything perfect. And I'm not really into that type of thing in the first place. So they're basically like, well, the whole entire point of it, the reason why you replayed Destiny's story 100 times and it got 1% harder each time is so that you could play something even more harder. Except now you need 5 people to cooperate.
right.
And I've, beaten those and lost at those and lost a lot of hours at those, and you know, different groups of people get stuck at different parts in the game. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. Like cooperation seems to break down every single time almost, and the only way of really getting it done is if you use the Destiny Tracker program and just basically abandon groups of people. As soon as you've seen like they're not going to beat the raid, you have to just abandon them and leave and go and be the host as well. So you have the checkpoint. So you
Right.
can just say, hey, you guys, I'm sorry, it's not working out. And you just click, you leave, and then you go find another group of people, and then you all start from the checkpoint where you left off at because you were the one that hosted it. And then they all jump in with you, and you try and finish it, or you have somebody that comes with you, and stuff like that is happening.
Yeah, and it also comes down to connectivity issues that there were, especially when launching the game. I know a lot of people had error code Caterpillar, which prevented a lot of people from being able to play. And
Error code
sucked.
Caterpillar. Can you elaborate on that? Because that
Error code Caterpillar is it pretty much describes an issue with port forwarding. Destiny requires, I don't remember exactly what ports, but it requires certain ports to be open, and if they were not open, you could not access the game.
I see.
Most people that had this issue were people who were on like college campuses who connected to a public Wi-Fi network where they had no access to the port forwarding diagnosis or option, I guess you would say, on the router. So they were screwed.
So
Destiny had to come up with a fix for that. I don't know if I think they did fix it. Not sure. I never had that issue.
Fair enough. And then there's the
I
fact
did get
that,
almost every other error code there was, so.
and then there's the fact that PlayStation Network and Xbox Live were being hacked non-stop during the launch of this game and the first month and a half or more of its life cycle.
And
So-
during Christmas, which made things worse because Destiny was being given out as a Christmas gift, so were Xboxes and Xbox Ones and PS4s and all that stuff.
Yep, that's true. And
Destiny's an online-only game. You can't play it offline.
well, I think you actually can you?
I don't think you can play it
My knowledge.
offline, but I don't think you need an Xbox Live Gold or.
Oh, right. So you can play solo,
Yeah,
but
you
an
can
Xbox
solo
would
the
make you
campaign,
online.
but that's all you're given.
All right. Well, anyways, that game is probably what I would say the most worth the $60 out of the three, and I still don't really feel good about having bought it. It's like
I'm not saying I hate it, and I understand where you're coming from. Because as we go on in life, we're expecting game companies to give us longer and more entertaining games.
Nah, I would say even just the same as what we had last gen or the gen before it. I wouldn't say we want longer, more better games. I would say why the hell is this one so much shorter? It's not like it's not like I'm asking for the world. It's like
I do understand that. I mean, they spent what? How long has
it's artificial.
Halo 3 OST been out?
It's artificial
Hell.
length. It's artificial length because you're telling me you just play the same thing over and over again, and that makes it longer. That's
I'm
like
not saying it makes it longer.
It's like if they put no. That's what Bungie is saying.
Oh.
And that's like if Nintendo put out a Mario game with 3 levels and they were like, hey, it gets 1% faster each time. It's a little harder. Just keep
Well, you got to think about it like this. They were working on Halo and this at the same time, so we got like an extended length of time for the game to be released. They were working on it for like 5 or 6 years or whatever. Think about
that's
the
not
next
true.
Destiny.
343 Industries had long since taken over Halo. Bungie had nothing to do with Halo. They had plenty of time to do this. I don't think that's the case at all. I think what happened is that Activision just told them, hey, we're going to just take this piece and sell it. And then Bungie was like, well, since we're, in contract by you, we don't have a choice. Sounds good.
Right, and now we're already getting news. Yeah, and now we're getting news about Destiny 2, or so it's called, going to be coming, and they're already talking about it. How long are we going to have to wait for that one? And what is that going to be about? What are we going to do? What are they going to do?
I got a better question. How many people are going to actually buy it?
Oh, I'm definitely going to buy it. I loved the first one.
It's not even done rolling out the DLCs, and the only DLCs they really rolled out is a couple raids and a bunch of guns. So that is where's like the complete, and then there's the fact of who's gonna want to play Destiny 2 when no one knows what happened in Destiny because the story sucks so much and it was told in such a piss poor way where it's fucking boring and it makes no sense.
It did suck. The story was not as good as it was advertised.
You gotta fight the darkness, and
only a small amount of
fighting
people.
the god at the end of the game.
Yeah, only a small amount of people understand what's going on right now in that game.
A small amount of people that claim to understand the story are full of shit.
Yeah,
You can look up those little things on their website that tell you the background, but what actually is going on in the game is just like, it's basically like fucking military strike missions, except without like any like context.
All right.
It's like, hey, it's Call of Duty in the future, everybody.
Speaking of that, let's talk about Titanfall for a second. Because I think this would be a much more obvious example. Destiny is kind of a weird one, and if you guys want to complete,
so fucked up.
Well, because it's a story game that's multiplayer. It's a story-based game that's multiplayer only. It makes no damn sense because if you play it by yourself, you're basically an idiot, and that's not how you're supposed to play it. So it's kind of it sucks by yourself, and it becomes unplayable at a certain point because you can't play the raids by yourself unless you're like completely leveled out. Every single piece of armor and weapon just doesn't make sense. So let's move on to Titanfall because that was really the first offender of recent times, and it's funny because all the reviewing websites gave Titanfall a higher score than Destiny.
Oh, way higher scores. Titanfall got like 10s.
Right,
Ew.
and Destiny got like 6s and 7s. So
No, I'm very finicky about games that release. Like, if I feel it's not going to be something I like, I don't even try to look up about it. I don't even try to pre-order. I wait for it to actually come out and see what my friends think about it, see what others think about it, and I'm definitely glad I didn't get Titanfall. Because seeing all the reviews and what my friends said about it, it just didn't go together. I mean, my friends said it was horrible, and then you see all the reviews that say, "Oh, come get this game."
The gameplay is pretty good, but there's like no there's like nothing much in the game. There's like unless you buy DLC, but you get more maps. It has like two campaigns, but they're like each like an hour long.
I kept hearing from my friend. It was like they were trying to combine a segment of Call of Duty and a segment of Mech Warrior and just smack it together.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Metacritic for Titanfall right now. It has 66 positive reviews and 2 mixed reviews and 0 negative reviews.
Oh.
and at the time, I think a lot of this has to do with when these games come out and what else is around. And there seems to be that culture of like, let's all get the latest shooter because we're all gonna play, right? Yeah, and we're all
Right.
gonna play with our friends, right? And everybody gets excited and they think that's gonna happen. They buy it, happens for a month or two, and then everybody ditches it.
They're like,
That's
whoa,
pretty
look what
much.
it was Titanfall if you had Xbox, and then it was I think there was another game that came out in between,
I
and then
played
it was
Titanfall.
Destiny for months, and now it's and then there was Call of Duty that came out,
I play
and it would have
Titanfall.
been Halo, but Halo's fucking unplayable because they fucked that up. And
The
then
Master Chief
now it's-
Collection.
yeah, and now there's Evolve that just came out.
Right. Alright, so let's talk about Evolve for a second. Let's compare Titanfall versus Evolve.
Hey, at least Titanfall's got a bunch of different game modes.
Okay, yeah,
So does
but
Ghost. It has like 50 options in the friggin' menu.
you could argue
Yeah,
that
but Ghost doesn't matter because everybody
does.
just plays all the game modes the same in Call of Duty. They all
Pretty
play it
much.
like it's team
we're,
deathmatch.
we're not here to talk about Call of Duty. I'm talking about that you could. Call of Duty has set game modes that are completely different than each other. Call of Duty's multiplayer far and away outshines both Titanfall and Evolve as far as content. If you don't like it, that's fine. And the hit detection sucks, and the quality of the actual like bullet hit detection is not good. However, if you're gonna talk about like features and like levels, how many maps come with the game for free, then that game's a bigger game than Titanfall and Evolve, and that's why it's sad. That's why it's outraging. That's why people are mad because Call of Duty is a minimal standard, not an average standard or like a high standard. It's like the minimum. It's like people are already offended that that exists, and then Titanfall is a great game with not even close to enough content. And how do you score a game like that?
Right.
How do you review a game that's a great game but nowhere near worth the amount of dollars? And what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Personally, I feel I almost said ashamed. Might as well say it because you see these games and how they're portrayed, kind of like Destiny, how they threw out all this advertisement for it, and then we get what we got. I'm not saying it was horrifying. It's just the story was not there like they said it was going to be. And then you look at Titanfall, and they talked more about the multiplayer for Titanfall than they did anything else. They showed off the new features like wall running and
Which is all cool.
claiming your Titan to wipe out. Yeah. Like they showed off all the cool features, kind of like how movies show off all the funny parts, and you watch the movie, and that's all you saw was what was in the commercials. Like those were the only funny parts right there.
Right.
Like
And
the only highlights of Titanfall was the wall running and the Titans.
yeah. Yeah, and the game modes were extremely similar to each other, which I already pointed out. With
Like,
Evolve,
it's got very good gameplay, but there's just no substance,
Right.
which seems to be a running theme in the industry nowadays. Not with just Destiny, Titanfall, and Evolve, but with a
Do-
lot of games.
do you guys think that people are just desperate right now because Call of Duty and Battlefield suck so much?
You brought up Battlefield.
Some people would disagree
Nice.
that with Call of Duty and Battlefield sucking, even though I don't really care much for either of them.
They
I
may
meant that
disagree,
Battlefield 4
but
was a little bit better than the
in-
third game, and then
in terms of
Advanced Warfare is better than Ghost, but that's all I can say about Advanced Warfare. It's better than
Right.
Ghost, everybody.
It's better than Ghost.
Ghost was
That's
so good.
it's
It's better
better.
than Ghost.
But hasn't the problem always been that there was no competition really for Call of Duty except for these games that people would buy and abandon? And now we're running into the same exact problem except they have way less content.
Well, the only competition Call of
They
Duty
don't
had
even
was
have
Halo on Xbox 360, but that's one platform. That was the
well,
only competition it
that's
had,
not
and that's one
that's not
platform.
true. That's not really true. I'm
And
talking
Battlefield.
that's not yeah, that's the only persistent steady like rival they had, but there was other games that people would buy and abandon, like the Killzone series and the Resistance series as two regular main examples, and then all those shooters that everybody's forgotten about, like Medal of Honor and
Homefront.
Homefront, exactly. All these games that people bought, played for a couple months, and sold. However, here's the huge difference. Last generation, they all had a story mode.
Mm-hmm. They all had
Some
a
of the
very
story
long
modes in a lot of
story.
those games were good, like Medal of Honor 2010 and Homefront had good stories, but the multiplayers were terrible.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But the stories were really good.
Right, so this brings me back to the original question. Before we talk a little bit about Evolve, which by the way, we're gonna, get more into that and stuff, but should multiplayer games cost should multiplayer only games cost $60 still? My answer is no, and I think Evolve should have been free to play. And I want to hear you guys' opinions on that. And then I'm going to talk about the DLC on Evolve. But I want to hear you guys' opinions on just never mind the DLC and stuff. Do you think that these games, as they're presented right now, should have came out for less money? And if so, how much money? And Tristan, go first, and then Kyle. So we got some kind of order here.
Alright, Titanfall, $20 digital download, at least. I mean at the most. Evolve, I bet the most $10 because I guess they could make the argument that the graphics look so good or something really fucking stupid, but more than likely free to play because there's some free to play games out there such as Warframe that have more content than half the games that come out today, and Warframe is good, even though you have to buy other things to get more characters and some things like that, but it's reasonable enough because even though it will go over like a $60 game price, but it basically just gives you the choice to choose what you want. I still just use the base stuff because it's really all you need in a game like that. But yeah, Evolve $10, $5 free to play. And Destiny probably about 30 to 40 because it actually has a lot of content in it in terms of compared to the other two. It does take a while, but it's once you get to the point of when you beat it, there's nothing much else to do except for attempt at leveling up your guy through the armor permutations you get, the light armor,
Daily and the weekly events
the
and
weeklies, all
waiting
that. It's
for
like
DLC to finally come out.
yeah, they have one DLC out right now. It was very tiny, barely worth $15. That was like $3 with 3 DLC. They sold for 15. The next one it's supposed to be
They have
actually big, and then they have another. They have 2 more coming out this
they
year.
have 2 out right now. They have the Dark Below and they have Crota's End.
Yeah, but Crota's just a raid. They have I think it's called House of Wolves, and it's gonna have more story.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Story focused features, and then they have 2 more expansions coming out later this year. One in August, I heard, and another at the very end of the year, and then they have no plans after that.
I know I'm sidetracking, but did you guys, before we let Kyle say his opinions on that question, did you guys happen to catch the news that Bungie's hired new writers and claims that they're bolstering the story of Destiny DLC before it comes out as a response to the complaints?
Actually, I haven't heard about that. I haven't read much about Destiny stuff recently.
It's about 3 days ago.
It's all bullshit. They don't give
I say give them a chance.
People are gonna buy the DLC.
I mean, they fail at the storytelling to me. So I mean, how are you gonna catch me up on what I
doesn't make
missed?
any sense because the Halo trilogy had good narrative stories, and
All right,
then
Kyle,
from
what do
that
you
to
think?
Destiny.
What do I think about what we're talking about now? Your little sidetrack idea,
Start with the sidetrack and then work us back to how much money is each game worth to you?
All right. Well, personally, I feel like Destiny needs to be given a chance. This is the first time they've strayed from the Halo story, and they're trying for something new. So personally, I feel like I've been giving them a lot of chances with this. So far, I like what they've done. It's just, yeah, there is no story that was blown out the window, especially after seeing half the commercials I did. I didn't hate the commercials, but it's just not what they advertised personally.
That's another issue. That's another issue. But okay, that's gonna have to be another show. But we're gonna be mentioning that probably in every podcast for the next year because
Well,
there's
here's
been
just
so
a
much
short
false.
example. You can watch Dev Diaries from like 2012 and 2013. They're like, yeah, you could go to Earth, Saturn, to Jupiter, back to Mars. And guess what? Saturn and Jupiter aren't in the game. You know, you can go to like 3 planets and the moon.
Actually, Saturn and Jupiter are in the game. If you go to the Grimoire card section, you can actually see them that they have their own Grimoire section.
Yeah, but
Grimoire
that's
section.
like
So
that's
you're
stuff
telling
on
me they're
their
gonna be
website though. Not
DLC?
barely anybody gets on the Bungie website.
Yeah, personally,
Yeah, there's all
I
that stuff
suspect
they
that it's
cut
going
out
to
in the
either be
game
future
to sell us
DLC or
the
it's something
game.
that's already there. That yeah, right. Or it's just something
Like
that gamers haven't found in the code yet, or whatever they're doing.
Okay, so what do you
They
think?
found all the stuff in the code. They found Neptune in the code and all kinds of stuff like that.
What do you
They
think
found
about
some-
dollar amounts, Kyle? And like, what do you think about dollar amounts for each of the three? And what do you think about like a solution to this problem as far as dollars too? Like, you can chime in after that too, Tristan.
Personally, after what Tristan said, I mean, he brought Warframe into it, and I kind of agree there. I've played Warframe, and I love it, but that it would be just too much pay to play right there. I'm not saying in a PvP standpoint, I'm saying as a personal gamer standpoint, I like being given options, but I don't like being given options that I would have to pay for simultaneously. If I'm going to pay for something, I'm going to pay for something and at least get the bare minimum of what I can do. In Warframe, you are literally given the fucking bare minimum, and yeah, the options are really cool, but it's also time consuming because having to craft a weapon takes at least 15 hours of your time. And you can go and do other stuff or go play another game while you wait, but I don't want to have to sit there and wait for something to happen. So if they made Evolve free to play, they would either implement something like that or they would make you have to purchase or get half the weapons that would be normally in the game and strip them down to either craft them and spend 20 hours of your time or just purchase them and you have them now. I don't like that idea because unless you like spending your time doing it, it's just not something that I would see they should do. I would say $10, give them bare minimum of like base guns that you can still purchase in game, base items.
$10. You think which game is worth $10?
I'm not saying Evolve is worth $10. I'm saying there should be like what's the word? A tree of no, not a tree. Several payment options that you could do, like $10, and they'll give you like bare minimum. The rest you could buy as like DLC or something. $20, they give you the game plus some of the DLC, and then $30 for the full game, especially if it's just multiplayer only.
All right.
And then with Titanfall, really, I don't know
Titanfall, the servers were really good, and the hit detection was really good, and it was fun. But besides that, that's it. Like, we all expected way more maps to come, like, the next day or something, and, like, more game modes, and it was just like, nah, we're done here.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where they got the idea of $60 being for every game that ever comes out. I mean, I just got Dragon Ball Xenoverse for $44.99 or $49.99. Why isn't that $60? Why didn't that get up there? That's going to be highly multiplayer based.
Well, that's on PC, right?
Yeah, that's on Steam. I'm actually kind of confused at why it's so low, but because I haven't looked at the price on GameStop, and I'm not going to assume that it's $50 there. But it kind of reminds me of the old days back when games were not that expensive, mostly because they were single-player games. If something's going to be multiplayer only, it should be the price of a single-player game or lower, because you're only getting a certain aspect of the game instead of both aspects.
Right. Well, it's the console version of Dragon Ball Xenoverse is $60. The only reason that it's $50 on Steam is because the PC version is sometimes cheaper. But besides that, I see your point, and that's a game that has single player and multiplayer, right? So, I mean,
I know, but I'm just saying they were just like with Destiny. They're emphasizing a high multiplayer play base, a lot more so than the others, because the other ones multiplayer that was just horrifying.
that's a good point, but that fan base I think is starting to get turned off because they got bored of Titanfall. It took like longer than it should have, and maybe because there was just nothing else to play that was worthwhile in that genre. But it sort of like took maybe like 3 months to sort of wear off, and then we were all like waking up in like some guy's house with like a sore butt, like what happened to me last night? Oh my God, where am I? And then we just realized like, oh, I understand. Respawn Studios raped me. Okay, and then we went yeah, and then we went home. But in terms of Destiny, it's sort of more like a lot of people love it and don't give a shit that it's the same thing over and over again, and a lot of people hate it and they got sick of it after about 1.5 to 2 months. And then there's some people that are like half in and out, like I would say me. Like I kind of would want to go back and play it, but I also don't see any interest in getting my guy to level 31 and then pushing him to level 32, and then when they put the DLC out, game to.
Well, other than the story, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, other than the story, honestly, they did put a lot of focus on the multiplayer. Like that was the thing. That was what they wanted to do with
And
the
most
game
people
because it's
don't
supposed
like
to be an MMO shared world shooter. This is the first time they've done it.
Most people
But I
don't
don't think
like
that
the
they
multiplayer.
expected as many players to play it as much as they have.
Most people don't like the multiplayer though. The Crucible.
Honestly, I love the multiplayer. Drop in, leave.
I think he's talking about co-op, not Crucible.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I like it. I like the Crucible, but
Yeah, I'm talking about in general, the co-op.
the reason people don't like the Crucible
It's
is because
unbalanced as fuck.
it doesn't. No, I think it was balanced when it first came out, but they've been doing changes, and I don't really know how that's working out because it feels like not the same game, and I hate when they always try to balance games and ruin them. But my thing is, they don't reward people really for doing the Crucible. It's not the same like level of reward. People feel like they're wasting their time because they have all these.
No, they don't. It's all about luck.
Okay, so I'm gonna read off some of Evolve's DLC now. Okay, let's see here.
Read it off.
Evolve is basically being looked at like basically the Evolve DLC consists of monster skins and cosmetic stuff, but there's also rumor about another monster coming.
There already is one confirmed to come, but
Right.
it's like a big rolly thing. Like, what is it? There's only like 3 monsters in the game. But then there's like 3 characters per hunter class.
They also confused a lot of people too as well. So if you wanted to get all of the game and all the DLC, it was $120, which I was telling people about this before it came out, and we also had an article about it. And remember how I said I paid $90 for Destiny and the Season's Pass, and I felt like that had a lot more content than what Evolve does for $120 with the game and the Season's Pass, and that is not really a good thing to me. And then I heard these maps are free, and the maps are really not designed well. Graphically, they look great, but they don't really flow for shit. and I mean it's a brand new
The
game
maps are
genre.
free. Like Killzone Shadowfall, all the maps are free on that. But you
Yeah,
know,
but
the
it's
Seasons
super
Pass
co-op,
is where all the actual stuff is,
right?
and the free maps suck too. Like it's free for a reason, right? Like I remember back in the day, there was like a free map on Halo 3, and it was called like Cold Storage, and they made it free, and it was like the biggest fucking piece of shit you would have ever played. But you need to download it so you could play us like online because I don't know, certain playlist or something stupid. And it was like the biggest fucking piece of shit map you'd ever play. Like there was like no flow, like on like most maps. It was just like there. It was just like gigantic fucking hunk of shit made for King of the Hill, random ass stupid shit. Brings back bad memories.
Yeah, if you paid on Xbox One, you could even like skip a whole bunch of the game.
Yeah, if you pre-order this, then you start out like at tier 3, so basically you're like fucking like all over halfway done. Which is probably, if you're gonna pre-order Evolve, you probably should have done it for that system.
So what comes in the Seasons Pass is 4 playable hunters, 1 for each class, 3 monster skins at launch, which I could really give a shit less about skins. I don't give a fuck.
Skins, ooh.
3 monster alright, so basically it was the Goliath skin, which looked like magma, Kraken skin of magma, and Wraith skin of magma.
And they're all the same. Okay, I see.
Yeah, and there was also like a glorious PC Master Race mod, which they called the PC Monster Race Edition of Evolve. And that was about $131 worth of content into $99 package. But they only did that because they know PC gamers are picky as hell, and they were not going to tolerate that from anybody. You know, so that's the situation. And if you didn't get the weapon skins or the new hunters, that was that was $7.49 each. So, I mean,
It's interesting.
it's interesting, but I think we need to go into our next topic. This is going to be something that we're going to have to revisit, possibly further into the road here. But a new game came out today,
There we go.
or tomorrow rather. By the time you're hearing this, it's out today. It's a little game called Le Order, and no, it's called The Order. I'm just being clever there. It's a little French for you. But basically, I want to talk for a second about this. And again, people who hear in this podcast and are probably going to take this totally the wrong way. I can already think of a few names. People are going to think, oh, they're just hating on Evolve. They're just hating on Destiny. Just hating on Titanfall. If you look at these games, we've reviewed some of these games. We've given some of these games maybe too much of a score than they deserved. But really, that's an issue that we're facing and we're trying to fix with our review system and how our whole format works on our website. But really, that's an issue that's separate because if you look at the writing, we like the games, but we have issues with them. Now, fast forward to The Order. Nobody's saying this is a bad game. Nobody's saying this is a terrible game. Nobody is saying that the developers suck. Nobody's saying that they tried to do anything crazy. But what we are saying is maybe it's not worth $60. And here's the issue is they built up a certain vision. See, when we all review games, what we try to do is see what the developer's vision for the game was, and then did they meet that vision? And we don't really know what their vision was. We just know what they tell us the vision was. And if they choose to tell us basically lies, and if you want to be polite about it, misleading us by accident or saying what they hope will happen, because as many of you may or may not know, a lot of developers hide behind something called forward-looking speech. It's in the bottom of press releases, And forward-looking speech is basically buzzwords to protect them from damaging their stock value of the company by making false promises. Because it says at the bottom of the press release, everything that you're reading is forward-looking speech. So if I say Evolve is gonna, if I say Destiny's gonna take you to Jupiter, and then you say, hey, Destiny never took me to Jupiter, I say, well, hey, that was forward-looking speech. I thought it was going to take you to Jupiter, but it turns out, development issues happened, this and that happened, delays, and Activision put their finger in my butt, and now you're not going to go to Jupiter. So they can get away with that because they can say, well, that was forward-looking speech. We just thought we were planning on it. That was a plan. That was a work in progress. However, that's the only thing that we know how to judge the game by is what they said they were trying to do, and did they do that? Because when it comes to the Order, all we heard about was from the beginning, this game is going to be amazing. This game is going to blow your mind. This game is going to marry cinematics with gameplay in a ways that you have never seen. It's pretty much word for word what they said, almost. And the developers of the Order today have gotten all their reviews come out, and they've come out and said, quote, we've said too much, quote. And what they meant by that was, back when they were talking about the game, they promised too many things, but to them, they run back behind the same exact argument, which I just told you about, forward-looking speech, where they say, well, we weren't really promising, we were planning, we were trying. And it's starting to sound like everybody's the new Peter Molyneux. Oh, we were trying. We weren't lying.
I was trying to get your trees to grow in Fable.
I was trying to get Milo to wipe your butt, but he just doesn't. I'm sorry. Connect's not that powerful, and it's with this type of crap that they're feeding us. Like, oh, we wanted to give you more content in Destiny, but it's just taken us really long time. Like, does anybody really believe that? Because I don't. And what it comes down to... Well, hang on. I just want to keep it on the Order because I don't want to backtrack too much, and I kind of went around a weird loop here, so let me just take you back around, and then we can let you guys chime in this. The Order, not necessarily a bad game, definitely short, but I'm not here to talk about how long or how short it is. I'm here to ask a question: when is a game too cinematic and not enough gameplay? And before I let you guys answer that question, I just want to say the Order made it sound like we were going to see God of War for shooters. What we really got was like Heavy Rain for shooters. So take the floor. Whoever wants to go first, one at a time, please.
Well, I mean, like in terms of being cinematic for games like, Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls and The Walking Dead and stuff like that, it's okay, because that is exactly what they were going for, was a more movie, TV show-like experience where you can make choices that forge the story. But then you have something like, let's toss in Rise to Rome as an example of where that was supposed to be kind of like, when you play it, you kind of feel that it could have definitely had the potential to be a very good, action, maybe sort of a hack and slash game. But it's every time you actually get to go in the combat, it pretty much will end up just switching over the quick time events, and quick time events were pretty much initiating the part of the gameplay. When you go up to like kill somebody, there'll be like some little marker that pops above their head for some reason. You can do like a quick time event execution or something weird like that. Now, for something like the Order, which we haven't played yet, but we've seen gameplay, and you kind of got a good idea of what it's like.
Well, right, the entire thing was leaked, and
yeah, you could see it. We haven't seen the leaked stuff because spoiler issues and such, but
I've seen the leaked stuff. I've seen all of it.
Well, there you go.
And the only thing I want to say is the boss fight on Chapter 4 is the exact same thing as the final boss fight at the end of the game. The only difference is what's happening on screen in front of you. The buttons that it tells you to press and the timing you have to press them are the exact same thing, and that is
Is the
horrifying.
boss time a quick time event?
Yeah.
That's it. There's no. So it's like a Call of Duty Modern
Well,
Warfare quick time
no,
event boss fight.
it's a hybrid of shooting and QuickTime events, but it's not like they said where it's a marriage of cinematics and gameplay. It's a marriage of QuickTime events and gameplay.
See, cinematics would be. If you want to talk about a marriage of cinematics and gameplay, go play Uncharted or The Last of Us. You know, 1 minute you could be having to, I don't know, you could be Uncharted. You have to. There's a part in Uncharted 2 where you're in the, ice place or whatever with the dude that doesn't speak English. I can't remember his name right now. And that fiend attacks you, like the big Yeti fiend with horns or whatever. And basically, it's like kind of like a cutscene at some points in time when you're fighting it, but then it still lets you gain control and you have to shoot, but you can't just kill this thing. And then you have to fight two of them later on. It's like the same thing, where you kind of, if they catch you, it kind of goes into like a weird cinematic, but you could still shoot at them while this cinematic is going. Like basically on games like Uncharted and The Last of Us are kind of like really what you want if you want a marriage of cinematics and gameplay, because Uncharted is still all gameplay, but it's also very much like a movie. So anybody who says Uncharted is just a movie in a game, it's not. It just has a very good cinematic portion of the game, but about 95% of it is still gameplay, but it's still cinematic at the same time. See like that, and then you play something like Rise Son of Rome, where it's apparently QuickTime events are cinematic. Nobody likes QuickTime events. I remember some of the earlier games I played QuickTime events probably came out at the end of like the PS2 era.
Right.
I mean, nobody likes those. Like, they're kind of cool for doing certain things, but I mean, the only kind of QuickTime event I like is the button mash, because at least that one actually makes sense and you're actually kind of interacting. Button mash is the only, like, literally the only good QuickTime event out there. But it's not even really a QuickTime event. Button mash has existed for a long time. You can press square or X constantly to get something. But yeah, if you want the perfect cinematic gameplay mix, just go play Uncharted 2. Be one of the best games you ever played.
Kyle, you want to jump in and answer the question of when is a game too cinematic and not enough gameplay? And in terms of the order?
Well, I agree with you. QuickTime events are definitely annoying as hell, especially when I'm trying to play a game that is heavily focused on you fighting a lot of enemies. I don't want to have to sit there, hit someone, and then have to press another button in order to execute the kill. I don't want to have to press button after button in order to do that, because it just wastes too much time, and I don't want to sit there and watch the same animation happen over and over again. Although, maybe if it was based on you have like a 10% chance for that to happen system, then it'd be a little better, and it probably wouldn't be bad. And I can understand where you're coming from with the button mashing.
That's a really good point.
That's your survival technique.
That's a really good point. QuickTime event takes away the skill, and that's why nobody likes it, because it's just like, oh, I tap this button and it's guaranteed that all of this brutality is going to happen in front of me, instead of earning the kills. And God of War tried to address that by making the enemies like faster, so you had less time to do the QuickTime events, and you had to button mash faster. And PlayStation 3 had actual pressure-sensitive keys. So how hard you pushed square mattered, and which was barely mattered. But
God of War 3 is kind of like Uncharted 2, where it's a good blend between both those. But the thing is, like when you're in the boss fight, like in the very first boss fight, you fight like Poseidon in God of War 3, which is one of like the best intros to a video game ever. And you basically, it's like a pretty good mix of gameplay, but they do toss in some QuickTime events, but it's just like in the first God of War game when you fight the Hydra at the very beginning, it's just like to kind of do like an animation where you cut off its head at the end of the fight. So, I mean, that doesn't really bother me that much, but it's when you have to constantly do things like that in games that are supposed to be more action-orientated, like Rise, Son of Rome. It doesn't. Even, like, Uncharted, God of War, and I can't believe I haven't mentioned the game Alan Wake. Games like that, perfect gameplay and cinematic mix. But then a game like Alan Wake doesn't have any quick time events or anything. It's just cinematic mixed with the gameplay in general, with an amazing story. And Uncharted 2's got some kind of quick time.
Right. You can also kind of bring right. You can also kind of bring Ninja Gate into the fact because it also had a couple quick kind of time events to go with it as well. Much of the gameplay itself was simple. You just execute combos. But if they end up doing what they did in Ninja Gaiden, where the quick time events were boss based, then I can understand it a little more. But if they're gonna bring quick time events constant into the order, then it's probably not going to get very popular at all. If it's true that the boss battles are going to be quick time events, I'm not going to hate it as much.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say
they're not entirely, but they are primarily, like similar to God of War, where you're doing a lot of it. You kind of.
Well, I'll ask this. I don't want to ask too much spoiler release stuff or whatever you want to say. But how big are the bosses?
And are they both like the same thing? Because what is it? The half-breeds? Are they both like werewolves, or are they supposed to be two different like species type of things?
It's not about that, because people don't see people. The whole problem is that what's happening on screen, regardless of how big the enemy is, doesn't really matter to people right now for this particular game, because they have to push the same exact keys to beat the two parts of the game. So what's happening on screen doesn't mean shit to them. Like if I tell you press up, up, down, down, left, right, start, circle, square, and then you win, and then I tell you press the exact same things again, and I show you two different enemy fights, do you really care it's two different enemy fights? You had to press the same exact thing. And didn't another game do this a few times? Struggling to recall exactly which
I honestly think I know what you're talking about.
I think Resident Evil 5 did this a little bit. Didn't they repeat the same exact QuickTime events over and over again?
No, the QuickTime events, depending on the enemy, yeah, I know what you're talking about with that, but they weren't like very cinematic QuickTime events. They were more along the lines of either kicking them down or taking their weapon and smack. Actually, it was Resident Evil 6. It was Resident Evil 6. That was the one where the
Resident Evil 5 didn't have too many quick time events, and all the bosses were different.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 6, yeah, you have to in certain enemies you have to press buttons to knock them down and stupid things like that.
Right. At first I enjoyed it. It was very fluent. It flowed perfectly with the gunplay of the game. But it got tiring after a while because it was the same exact thing, and half the time it was just an insta-kill. So it took out the challenge completely. Because once you would hit one, if any of the other ones were anywhere near range, it would pretty much defeat the purpose. But getting back to the order, if quick time events are going to be a part of the boss battles, I'm not going to hate it. Because when you think about it from a shooter perspective, you don't want to have like a serious boss battle and then you just kill it with the final bullet and you just watch a cinematic of it falling. You don't want to just watch it die.
You want to actually.
I would like something more to happen. Yeah, you want to actually feel like you kill it.
Okay, so that sounds more like you want the finishing move to be a QTE, not the boss battle itself. Because like for Resident Evil, one of the best things about Part 5 was that when you were shooting at their bodies, some parts of their bodies were more vulnerable than others. Some parts of their bodies were like respawning new blood cells, and you had to, with the automatic rifle or whatever you had to like really pin down the points of their bodies, and it was sort of like shooting them was a puzzle. And then, so you're basically telling me at the end of that, you don't want him to just go, oh, he's dead now, and then he falls, and then you're like, game over. You basically telling me a QTE is a perfect way to end the game.
Yeah, because it gives you more to go on. You don't just kill a boss and then move on. You feel like you actually killed them and that you actually made something happen. I mean, and you were saying how the buttons were the same from the third boss battle to the final boss battle. Personally,
Fourth chapter, yep.
Yeah. Personally, there's not an infinite number of buttons on the controller. If they keep them the same, oh well, you're going depending on how many chapters are in the game, you're going from chapter to chapter to chapter, so you don't know if there's going to be more. Gosh, we were just saying the word constantly.
QTE.
Yeah, QTEs. If there aren't going to be that many QTEs, or if there are going to be some or most for boss battles, then I'm not going to mind if, hey, it's the same thing. Whoop-de-doo. You're still getting the chance to take down the boss battle.
I don't understand. Then what is the point of having? I don't. Okay, there's limited amounts of buttons on the keys, whatever. But you don't have to tell them to press the same exact ones in the same exact order twice. I don't accept that. I don't think I can really agree to that.
Well, it depends on how they do it in the first one. Maybe the controls are context to the body parts of what they're doing. Say X would be the arm, or triangle would be the leg.
Right, except they're not. It's the order, not God of War. So.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Like some games, like Tekken, you'll use 2 to control your legs, 2 to control your arms.
So besides QTEs,
in some games,
what are some of the things that games like Uncharted did to marry the cinematics with the gameplay besides QTEs?
Mean like how the transition between gameplay, the cutscene actually works?
Right. That's a good point.
Sense. Like a lot of games, like it'll just be like, "Oh, you're fighting, and let's have a cutscene where like random shit that wasn't even going on happens." Like, I remember there was a part in like Gears of War 3 which usually that game was actually pretty good in transitioning from cutscene to cinematic. But this is just an example that a lot of other games have this issue with, like, or I can't remember. It was like halfway through the game, they're like, you kill a bunch of enemies, they're all dead. But then the cutscene pops up, and like all of a sudden you're just surrounded by enemies. But in Uncharted, what's on screen and what you go into the cutscene is what is happening. Like it's the same exact thing. The same thing with The Last of Us. Like there's like when I don't know. I think it's kind of a spoiler, but the game's been out over a fucking year now, so it's probably about a little bit more than halfway through the game when Joel gets all fucked up when you're fighting all those bandit dudes and he's about ready to basically die, and you have to like walk through the thing, and that's like that right there is a perfect mix of cinematic and gameplay, because you gotta basically let Ellie kind of carry you through this thing, and then every now and then you get a shoot. That is a pretty good mix right there, making it feel like you're watching a movie, but you're still being able to interact with what's going on in a gameplay standard that goes along with what the game is, which is a survival kind of stealth-like third-person shooter.
Oh.
I can't say much in terms of Uncharted because I don't play the PlayStation much, not like I used to. So.
Okay. But if you were going to talk about games in general,
I was going to mention something.
what's something to marry besides QTE that you can mention besides what Tristan said?
In all honesty, Dead Space 3 had some noticeable parts where you had to use the controls to get out of a certain situation, which I thought was different for the series because normally you would either have to shoot your way out, or in the first Dead Space, where you were be grappled by the tentacle inside of the ship and it would be dragging you, and you had to shoot it before it pulled you in and killed you.
And Dead Space, that series has had really good transitions between gameplay to cutscenes. I forgot about that. There's a couple other series too, but yeah, Dead Space has really good transitions because it's just the same. You'd be walking, and then his helmet would come down in the second and third game, and then you'd have some story tidbits. And then
I love it too because it worked with the outfit you had on. Because in Dead Space 3, there was an array of suits that you could wield, and no matter which one you had on, it would always follow you into the cutscene.
You guys feel like Mass Effect series did a good job marrying cinematics with gameplay?
You don't want to bring Mass Effect into
this, John. Definitely. That's another one I forgot about. Mainly because the cinematics are gameplay, because you're usually making decisions within those. Most of them. In the second and third game, they changed it up about they have like a few ones that are kind of like show like more running and coolness and stuff, but usually cinematics were gameplay because you were able to make decisions, kind of similar to what happens in Heavy Rain and uh, The Wolf Among Us and stuff, but it's not like those games at all because it's third-person shooter action adventure RPG that you get to make when you go up and talk to someone in certain cinematics, and then you're literally deciding what Commander Shepard says, and you get to choose what they say. So yeah, that is another good example of how you can mix cinematics and gameplay because you're talking, you get to decide. It's probably the best part about the game because back then you can make choices, but your character normally wouldn't talk, and there's a few different things, and then they kind of introduced a more complex morality system, compared to something like, I don't know, Fallout 3, where the morality system is the worst part about the game because it's so stupid, but yeah.
Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean. I personally, the reason why I said that bring Mass Effect into us, because I played Mass Effect and it is a good game. I will admit that. It's just I didn't like it as much as everybody else does. Because I mean, the gameplay was nice. It was fun to go through, but to me, it felt like I was raiding more than I was playing, and I didn't like that. So I just said, "Nah, I'm out." But I know what you're talking about with that, and then you brought just said it, Fallout into it. I kind of like the morality system personally because it made it feel like that you were actually making a difference within the world. I mean, I don't know. I doubt.
What's going on, but some of the decisions. I mean, I guess you can kind of count the talking now as a little bit of a cinematic in itself, since the game has no other cinematics besides talking.
Yeah, the only cinematic you see in that is the intro sequence, and that you just get shot.
In New Vegas, and then in the third one when you get born.
Yeah. Honestly, we can't really compare these games to the Order because I highly doubt there's going to be a context system where you get to decide what goes on. I don't know.
Yeah, Fallout you can't really compare. Mass Effect, I guess you could sort of compare, but
do you guys think that
games you actually should compare, like God of War, Last of Us?
Do you guys think that all the bad reviews that happened are going to cause a significant? Obviously it's going to hurt sales, but do you think it's going to cause a significant hurt in sales? And do you think that the Order has tarnished Sony's reputation for now in this gen?
It's possible. I mean, I saw Sony release numbers where they predicted that the Order would sell 5 million copies by a certain point in the year, but now I could probably still see it selling maybe close to 1 million, but after that it'll probably die off because I know people do pay attention to reviews nowadays, but I think it's going to be the fact that people are going to have a chance to play the game and they're not going to like it. And I think I've seen a lot of people didn't know it didn't have multiplayer because people are stupid, but I noticed.
Yeah, I was up with that. Everybody thought this game has multiplayer, and everybody
I guess they
thought
assumed it was the next Last of Us. So I think that's what it was. And
everybody thought that this. I'm sorry. Everybody thought that this game was going to be something different than it was. Go ahead.
Honestly, I never thought it had multiplayer.
Seems like everybody had their own idea of what this game is, and nobody was on the same page.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how you got multiplayer out of that because as soon as I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying.
But there's millions of people that think.
People just assume because they assume every game has multiplayer. Like even the Last of Us has multiplayer, and that's a lot of people are like, yeah, this is the next Last of Us caliber game for PlayStation until Uncharted comes out.
When I saw the Order, I did not, in no way, shape, or form, put multiplayer on the front of the list because it showed you a great single-player cinematic experience at the start. You just hear them. Just see them, they're talking to each other, and then just action is just thrown in your face.
Yeah, it intrigues you. It's like, yeah, all right, this is like a single-player game, like
right?
Bioshock Infinite. Those games don't have multiplayer, and those games are amazing.
So
But
the people who are confused, who think that this game may have
Call of Duty fans. Sorry.
no, I'm not asking you to judge. I'm not asking you to judge them. I'm asking you,
Oh no, I'm not. I'm just.
how angry do you think they're gonna be when they get the game and it's not what they thought it was? Do you think that there's gonna be mass returns like we usually see? Do you think that it's already too late because the whole entire game got leaked 2 days ago on YouTube? And
Honestly, I hate if I have not played a game that I want to play. I will not. I will watch
right,
somebody play it, but I
but
will
you're the
not watch their
minority.
whole
But
playthrough.
that's the minority viewpoint, though. The majority of people are gonna go look at those videos, and
Oh, I
they
know.
did. I mean,
That's true.
well, let me get more specific. The majority of people who are extremely active online looking for this information, and those
And
people may
also
not.
PS4 owners.
Right, which is about 22 million of them or so. But all right,
So
I
you
don't
gotta
know.
look at it from two different views.
Do you guys think that this is gonna affect the sales of other Sony exclusives too, though, like Bloodborne, which has nothing to do with this?
well, Bloodborne's also a third-party exclusive, but if people would just look, games are two entirely different games. Bloodborne is not really a story-focused game. At least we're led to believe if it's anything like Dark Souls and Demon Souls, which is a spiritual successor to both of those. And those games mainly rely on quick movement, attack, and more quick movement. Or more so the Dark Souls games, as Demon Souls is much
Let
better in
me
my
let
opinion.
me
But
let me ask. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how many fucking Dark Souls games does there need to be, dude? There's Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, now there's gonna be Bloodborne, and that's all just from the
they're all
original.
kind of the same game, except I give Demon
That's
Souls
just
the exception because Demon Souls actually has unique things that are only in Demon Souls. But Dark Souls 2, and basically Bloodborne's like Dark Souls 3, but it's not 3 because they made the gameplay faster and supposedly easier. It's an
Was
easier game, supposedly.
was was Dark Souls on PlayStation?
Yeah.
Did they throw those on? Okay. I was
yeah, it was
gonna make.
pretty much born. It was pretty much born from PlayStation because Demon Souls was PlayStation
Oh, I know
only.
about that, but I didn't know
Supposedly
if
they're also
it
making
was.
Demon Souls 2 for PlayStation 4, but there's no real word on that. And of
Well, if
course
that
they're gonna make Dark Souls 3.
if all of that is if all that is the case, then why did Sony ditch them in the first place just to bring them back when they're popular? Like
Because that's Sony.
Sony just seems like they're not what they used to be last gen, and they just want to cash in on things now. And to me, it feels like that the order was a critical moment where people are going to realize that now.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of back to the multiplayer standpoint. There are a lot of people out there who love multiplayer games. They spend so many hours in multiplayer games. I mean, I have Field, Call of Duty, Black Ops 2, hell, even Dota on my computer and all the other online stuff I play. But I still love having a single player experience because I love it. I love playing a game that tells me a story that I've yet to see that intrigues me, that makes me go, okay, I'm going to continue playing. Kind of like the Modern Warfare series did, because it told a great story. It's just the multiplayer was so much the same.
Right, but Bloodborne is going to tell you a story of, hey, you're a dude in a dungeon, here's a sword, kill some shit for 40 hours.
Oh yeah, I was going to make a comment about that. With the Dark
And-
Souls series, I can understand with you being saying there's so many, but on Xbox there's only Dark Souls and then Dark Souls 2. They don't have to deal with Demon Souls.
Well,
But
that's not entirely true because there's also other like rip-off types of games that have come out that are like really similar, like Lords of Fallen, for example.
I don't play those.
Lords of
I
the
don't
Right,
play
but
LoL.
we're not talking about what Kyle plays. We're talking about the industry.
I know. I'm just saying.
Continue.
Well, personally, I love Dark Souls because it's not about the story. It's not about how many there are. I love it just for the challenge itself. The games are so fucking challenging. It's like you're playing It's like you're playing hardcore mode on just I don't even know. I don't even know how to compare it. There's nothing to compare it to.
Like, I like Demon Souls. I hate the first Dark Souls. It's just so fucking boring. It's not the fact that it's quote unquote hard, it's just boring. And Dark Souls 2 I like a little bit better, but it gets boring. So that's
I
the main
personally
thing. The
don't.
games that is boring, they're not fun.
Yeah, I don't see the point of that whole entire
Like,
subject.
I don't care about the challenge. I like playing hard games, but it is boring. It's like, yeah, let's walk through multiple dungeons, kill shit, and die 50 times, and then finally figure out the right path to kill it. And it's like, yeah, I killed it, and then you fight something else.
Yeah,
and it just gets boring and repetitive because you end up realizing you just fight everything the same exact way, just in fucking stupid or different ways.
Yeah, the story of Demon Souls was like, run through a level and don't die. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. We got different stuff attacking you. Do it again. And then Dark Souls like took that to another level because they were like, all right, now the levels are even more cool looking and they're kind of like
they're like open areas and
a little dynamic.
Well,
yeah.
Well, you're mentioning every game ever because every game has you going through areas killing enemies. This just makes it.
Yeah, except no. Hold on, hold the phone. You can't even finish that sentence. Every game has you running through games killing enemies, but they tell you who the fuck are the enemies and why are you fighting them and who the fuck are you.
Yeah, this game is trying to leave you helpless and trying to figure out things on your own. That is what they were aiming at.
No, yeah, but there's nothing. What is there to figure out? You got to go on Google and read a wiki page about the story. It's not like they go, all right, 1,000 years ago, you were this little guy, and then this happened, and now you're gonna go on an adventure.
Well, not a single time was I expecting to be fed. At the first, I was kind of confused, but once I understand where they were coming from and why they were making the game the way they did, I kind of like, okay, I'll play through the game, see how far I can get on my own. Sometimes, yeah, I did have to reference the wiki page to figure out where to go next, because they, in no way, shape, or form, told you where to go next.
I'm not talking about them telling you where to go next, Kyle. I'm talking about them telling you what is the plot of the game, or is there even one? That's my problem with that subject.
Not every game needs a plot, but the thing about Dark Souls is I don't feel any initiative to play it because you're just kind of...
I feel like that kind of game does need a plot.
Maybe.
If the order came out and it had 40 hours of gameplay, exact same gameplay we see now, but the story was told weaker, like in Destiny, where no one knows what's going on because there's only a few cutscenes that are vague and stupid and fail to tell a story, the order, I think, would have like a 0 out of 10 right now. And I'm just kidding. It would have like a... Yeah, everybody pads their scores, so it would really be like a 6 out of 10 right now, or 5 out of 10 right now. So it's like... I don't really agree. I don't really see why there's a double standard. Like, it's okay for Destiny to get punished for not having a good enough story, but Bloodborne is probably not going to have barely any story at all, and that's fine. And Destiny had no story mode at all.
Kind of similar idea of a game, you know. And then
I feel like we're just like
something like Diablo. Where Diablo's heavily gameplay focused, but it does have a story, and the story is, I think the story's good. And
I feel like we're getting pieces of a game, and we're not getting a complete game anymore.
That's how most games are. Another thing about Dark Souls is, even though you go to different dungeons and fight, most of them just look the same. It's just like copy and paste carbon on so many different things. Like, well, the lighting's different in this area than that area, and the mountains are different, but a lot of the architecture is just like copy and pasted the same thing. You're not really going to unique different areas, which is acceptable if it came out during like the PS2 era when it was harder back then. But in modern age, where games usually have a lot more focus due to the fact that they hire tens times many more people usually, and engines and what they're capable of. It's just they get really boring and bland settings. Gameplay gets boring. So you're kind of wandering around like with no purpose, you know.
All right, we killed that topic. As far as all the other subtopics that we've kind of like stirred the hornet's nest about, we're gonna have to get to those on another show. But I have one final topic, and this is gonna be like another long one and kind of end it. And we had a lot of other topics that we didn't get to right now. but this is going to be an ongoing thing now, so we will be bringing you the truth. Question, and I'm going to go last on this. I want you guys to go one at a time. I know we've been doing a lot of intermixing with the talking, and a lot of that was me. But now I think we should go one at a time and then intermix, and then I'll sort of give my perspective. So, should gaming sites accept free games and technology?
In all honesty, to me, it just depends on the gaming site. Because some gaming sites are kind of like us. We do the work voluntarily. I mean, we do accept these games, but we do the work voluntarily. So, in terms of getting free stuff, it's actually not really up to us. It's up to the creators and the developers, because
Well,
they're the ones handing it
right,
out.
but I'm not. I'm not. You got me backwards. I'm not saying should we be able to get it. I'm saying should we accept it? Because there's people saying you should not accept free things except for the game code. But like, say if they wanted to give you like 17 copies of a game and we only need 2, and they're like, hey, just keep them all. And say if they want to go, hey, here's 5 copies of a game and a poster. Should we be turning away things like that? And what's your opinions on that? Now, from that perspective of the question, can you answer it like that?
Um, yeah,
Because their argument is that it's going to affect your review. Go ahead.
I see what you mean, but personally, I don't see how it affects your review. That's like saying, here, I want you to review this TV, but you're not allowed to watch the TV. Are we supposed to guess what like a pair of headset sounds like if we don't receive the item? Are we supposed to guess what a controller feels like, or how smooth it is if we don't receive the item? I mean, I can understand if people were like, oh, you should pay for it a little bit, but we're reviewing the item, so we have to have some sort of incentive to review it. I can agree with some people, but I can agree with some people that we're accepting stuff that people make, but they're willing and we're willing to review it and take our time to give our opinion about the item.
Do you think? So you're saying you think it's an even exchange? Basically, you need something for your time reviewing it, and because it's not like a big site where you're getting like $30,000 a year or more as a reviewer.
We're not requesting an arm and a leg. We're requesting the item. That way we can give a fair review about it. I mean, I know there are some sites that go, okay, we'll send you this, but you got to send it back. That's fine. We have the physical item. We can actually review it fairly instead of looking up online and making up some shit.
Right, so you're willing to send them back at times if needed, especially with tech probably, right? Like if they send you a $2,000 laptop, you wouldn't be like, mine,
right.
precious.
Right. If I really like it, I'll go out and purchase it. Especially, I mean, if they do want it back, okay, they can have it back. I just want to have the chance to review it, get my personal opinion out there. If I really like it, I'll go out and get one. It's as simple as that.
All right. Tristan, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Tristan?
I don't think them giving you stuff should affect it unless you're like a simple-minded idiot. Like, they give me extra stuff. Maybe the game's better because they are so confident. Like, what kind of dumbass thought is that? Like, they're giving you multiple copies of a game, it better be a massive multiplayer game. Like, maybe you can get the better extent of what we're going for if you have more than one person on your team playing it. Like, I don't know.
Like
Evolve, for
Evolve.
example.
Yeah, that should probably be a 4-pack, right?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Like, yeah. Or maybe even a 5-pack, because someone could play as the monster. And there you go. You got one person out of 5 people. They're all reviewing different aspects of the game. It reduces review time and et cetera. And then there you go. You know, you get that, or maybe it's like Call of Duty or something, and they give you like 6 copies, and you could do like 3v3. You know, just things like that, and it makes sense. It works. I don't really see how that would like impact your score unless you're like really stupid. Like,
Well, I think the
People
argument.
getting paid off with like extra shit is like, if someone tried to do that to me, I'd be like, well, guess what? You're a dumbass. Your game's still getting a 4 out of 10.
Okay, all
I
right.
think
So
what
you
some
so you're basically saying no matter what they give you, you're gonna review fair, and they're just basically idiots if they give you extra and
Yeah, if they
expect
give someone
and
like me extra, then they're idiots. Like,
they
let's say
expect you to give
someone
a
gave
higher
me,
score. You're saying you will
yeah.
not.
Let's say they get. Let's say we're going back a couple of years. Let's say it was Alien Colonial Marines I had to review, and they gave me a life-size replica of the Queen Alien from Aliens, the movie. I'm like, yeah, it's so awesome. Like, why don't you give this game a 20 out of 10? And then I'm like, thank you. And then when they see the review score, and I give it a 3 out of 10 because that's what it is. It's a shitty game. It sucks. There's nothing good about it. I want to play as a Marine and shoot aliens that fucking walk into the wall.
personally that kind of strays a little bit because what John's saying is if they give you the game, is it going against what we're doing? Is
I think Tristan's
How else are
answer
we
was
gonna
pretty
review
I
it?
good.
I
see
mean,
what I
I
see what
buy
he means.
some
I see what he
games.
means. I see what he means. But
Say that. Wait. What was that, Tristan? Before Kyle goes.
yeah, sorry.
I mean, if they're giving us the game, then how else are we gonna review it? I mean, you can't buy physically and digitally
Well, you're
every
talking about
single game
in a
possible.
sense if they bribe you. That's more of a bribe
But
than
wait a minute. You cut him off again. He said, "What did you say at the end? You can't buy what?"
Like, you can't buy every single game physically and digitally. Like, I'm buying the Order 1886 and Kirby, new game for Wii U, because
And you
it's
bought
pretty big.
Evolve and reviewing all
And,
three of those.
yeah, and I'm reviewing all 3 of those simultaneously, all on 3 different platforms.
And you're not
So,
getting paid to review by the companies, and you're not getting. We don't have
I've still
ads.
bought their game, but I'm not. Those are completely unbiased opinions coming from all 3 of these games. They're the 3 biggest games coming out this month, basically, and they're all promoted. Even though Evolve is multi-plat, you be honest, Evolve is pretty much being promoted for Xbox. They're all promoted for different systems, you know.
Right.
They're,
Okay,
they're
Kyle.
all vastly different games.
Okay, Kyle. What did you want to add?
I don't remember. We were I think we were talking about
That's fine.
to me personally it's more from a he's talking about what Tristan was talking about was more from a bribe standpoint. Don't let
Well,
video
that's
games
that's exactly what the question is. That's what the readers and of a lot of websites right now have basically taken down a notch IGN, which caused the entire IGN staff to quit and their leader to go leave, and now he's communications manager of Activision. And so basically he's no longer the head guy that hires people at IGN. He's like, no. And then Joystick, the website, is gone. And then I'm not going to name some of these other sites because you should just frankly not know about them and not go to them because they're just terrible. But let's just say they're hurting for money right now because people have come to find out that they don't look. Okay, before we go any further with this, I gotta say this was kind of a loaded question because I know that you guys are gonna have your own opinions on it, and I'm sort of supposed to like lead the way as the editor-in-chief here on the site. And so I have my own thoughts on this, which are changing every day as we become more and more ethically aware and responding to our readers' requests to improve our ethics, which we drafted an ethics policy as well, which requires that everybody says if you pay, like, say if I do an article about Kyle, but I buy Kyle's stuff, then I have to say in that thing there, like, I wrote this article about Kyle, but I also give him $1,000 a month on Patreon because I think he's sexy. Then I need to put that into my article. But if they're basically saying the same thing as that, where like IGN does not tell us how many copies of this game did you get. They do not say, and they don't think that they have to say. So when IGN sits there and says, "Oh, we got the game," and they try to act like they're just like RealGamerNewz, "Oh, we just got the game and reviewed it as quick as we could." The reality is they're being sent like 15 digital codes and 15 discs 3 weeks before it's out or more.
Right.
and they also have debug units, which I'm not hating on them or saying they shouldn't have the debug units or the early games. I'm just saying they should just tell the readers, because the readers are asking us, and so they're coming to sites like us and saying, well, what did you guys get bribed? And then the bigger sites are literally getting bribed.
Right.
Like I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I guess might as well just have a bonus topic before I get into my whole Real Gamer News is changing. Here's how it's changing speech, because that's what I was gonna kind of end with, because we're improving our ethics.
Right.
And but ever since the beginning, ever since we first started, we've always said, did the author buy this copy, or did we Real Gamer News get free copies? And if we got free copies, how many free copies did we get? How many of them were physical, because that means you can sell them and give cash? And how many of them were digital, which means they're not sellable? And so, and also if they give a review kit and what was in that kit, like magnets or stickers or posters or whatever. If you look through all of our reviews, and I challenge somebody to do this right now and comment, we have posted exactly our transaction has been, and you'll notice a lot of times we go out and buy the games, and a lot of the games that they give us for free, whatever. That's not the point. What I'm trying to say is we try to score fairly whether we bought it or not. But let's just throw this in there. Bloodborne has a huge ad campaign going on right now. Sony has bought ad space with a number of large websites to advertise Bloodborne. There's also been like really early sneak peeks of the game at websites that are getting like really, really exclusive first looks at things. And then there's also been other types of little strange deals, but it mainly, many people always say, oh, well, they're not getting bribed. They just have ads. Ads are how they survive. That's how sites work. And it's like, yeah, okay, but if I'm going to go onto Real Gamer News and write a review about Halo, and then there's Halo ads everywhere, and I have Microsoft emailing me money like, hey guys, here's your ad money for the month from Halo. Hope you're enjoying the game. And then I go typing up the review. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about, and that's why they're wondering, like, it gets down to the point where people are like, you shouldn't even have gotten that $3 indie game on Steam for free. And that's kind of like, I think, going too far. I think that you need to strike a good balance. But don't be surprised if you see really, really high scores for Bloodborne on sites that were running Bloodborne. Like go check out who has the ads right now, because they're not going to be having the ads when the reviews come out. That would just be silly.
Break that shit down.
Yeah, that would just be silly. They're not going to have the ads up when the reviews come out. They're having the ads up now, so that way when the reviews come out, they're advertising something else. So that way people don't put two and two together, and they already received all that money, and then they reviewed the game. So, just pay attention to who's got the ads up right now, and then go back and check what did they score this game. And if they're scoring it higher than everybody else, that's my answer to everybody. Should people receive free stuff? Sure. Yeah, sure. But like Tristan said, you just have to score it correctly no matter what. And like I'm trying to say, there's a limit. And so when at Real Gamer News, I'm going to announce right now that we are no longer going to be taking video game advertisements. We have one ad on our site right now from OnLive, which is going to be removed. It was a partnership deal to where if somebody clicked on it and signed up for OnLive and became a member of OnLive, which costs money, and then also bought a game on OnLive, because yeah, you gotta buy a game on OnLive even though you pay to be a member of OnLive. That makes a lot of sense, right?
Yay, logic.
Let me pay to be a member to something so where I can pay you for more money for games.
Here comes the logic train.
Games that I will never own and I only get to stream, and I have to pay you for them for like full price practically. Okay, so we were never really a big fan of that in the first place. We more so entered the deal because they said, okay, hey, we'll let you stream some games to your computers, and that way you can take care of some reviews, when you don't have that game to review. It turns out their selection sucks. They don't have shit for games. We don't fucking want them, and their service is still sucks just like it used to suck. And so we're done with them, and we're announcing that just like this. So if anybody thinks that I'm a hypocrite because we had an OnLive ad for the past few months, we made literally $0 from that. We played 0 games from it. The intention was to play games. We never expected to make any dollars from that because nobody's. Let me finish, man.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gonna fucking purchase OnLive just because nobody wants it, and so we're gonna go for non-gaming related stuff. I've been paying attention to a lot of really, really successful people and who are staying out of the limelight, and there's not many of those, by the way. Like people who are actually doing what I would consider the ethical route, and they're partnering with non-gaming companies. And so that's what we are going to do now. We're going to take that example, and by the way, thank you to everybody that's making that example, which is not many, like I said, but you know who you are. So, all right, I'll open the floor back to you guys now. I just kind of wanted to announce that the cat's out of the bag. We're currently not running any ads for any ad network either, and we are not running Google AdSense either. And we have a Geekly podcast advertisement, which is paid for, and it will be up until the rest of this month is over. It's a podcast. Some great people. Check them out. We respect their work. So that's first of all. We wouldn't just approve an ad from a crappy podcast that we don't approve of. We listen to their stuff first for a year or two before we actually even came into thinking about something like that. And that's ending at the end of this month. So it very well could be that RealGamerNewz could be having 0 ads next month if we don't have another type of partner. And since I just announced we're not doing gaming partners, we're going to have to get a little creative here. We might be selling Tristan's Socks Company. It could be on the side there. You didn't know he
get
makes...
my glasses.
Yeah, you didn't know that's how he's able to afford his games and be unbiased, because he also has a little socks company and he sells little socks.
I have a little socks company.
Yeah, the little pink socks, for your pets.
For an extra 99 cents, you can get little doogly eyeballs on them.
Nice one. So I don't know. I kind of feel like we killed that out. Do you guys have any final topics that you want to? Like, anybody got a bonus topic really quick? Because we got a little bit of extra time.
I was just gonna reference the ad you were talking about that we have on the site. I honestly never saw it until recently, and I never once thought about even going and signing up for their games or whatever they had going on.
Of course not. And you know what? Let me just say one last thing, actually, because I left something out that I meant to say. We had an ad company deal once that was sort of like the big sites have. And what started happening is they started putting bad ads in there that people were saying, like, oh, this ad is giving me a virus and this and that. We started telling them, you please use ad block while we contact our partner about this. And we would contact the partner, and they basically gave us jumps through hoops and stuff. And then when we finally told them, like, hey, this is not going to stand. This is bullshit. We're done with you. That same exact day, they go, oh no, hang on, trying to fix everything. And, but things got, like, slightly better, but we were just like, hey, it's too late. It's tough shit. And we just left them behind in the dust. So to anybody out there that thinks that we're taking bribes or we're taking this or that, understand that the ads you see were experiments for us to find something useful out of using ads. They're not like making tons of money for us. They're just experiments. And the one that we did have that was official ad company abused you guys. And we called them out for it, and we put their balls to the wall and stapled them. Because not only did they abuse our readers, they also abused our Google rankings, which really is damages to the website. But we're not going to be going suing companies that are bigger than us, because it's just not bad. That's just not a good idea. And also, they didn't do enough damages to where it's really that warrants that. But I just wanted to get that all out in the clear, and I want everybody to know that. And if there's any type of ethical issues, we have a public ethics issue. You can hover over the home button and then click ethics, and then scroll to the bottom and type a comment. If you have any problems with anything we do ever, go to hover over the home button, click ethics, scroll to the bottom of that, and type exactly what you feel. You can swear, I don't care. You can tell us that we're assholes and we took bribes from your mom. You can say whatever you feel like you need to say.
You can hit on Tristan's socks too.
You can hit
So.
on Tristan's sock puppets. They're actually his feet and hands under there, though, so don't get,
Watch out.
all excited and thinking it's an actual sock puppet and falling in love with it, because it's just him under there. So he'll pop up with a, whoopsies, it's me.
It's gonna be one of those
Actually,
real life jump scares.
Yeah, don't
It's
be
not
having,
me, but
don't be
it's part
having
of
a,
me. It's,
yeah, don't
it's a part of me under there.
it's a part of him, yeah. Don't be having the real life crying game in real life.
You're gonna be crying after.
You're gonna be crying when Tristan takes you downtown with those sock puppets.
I wish
Alright.
the doctor was there.
We got a lot of great topics coming up for you guys. This is kind of like jumping back into type of thing. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and have a great whatever time it is on Friday, and go play the order, because it doesn't suck. It just maybe wasn't worth what you paid for it. But I know you all pre-ordered it. You're suckers, so go play it and think twice next time before you go pre-ordering shit.
That you
Alright?
think is multiplayer.
Much respect, everybody. And also, we're sorry for letting you down, because these 3 games honestly looked like really good games, and we're just going to do a better job, and that's why this podcast exists now, and it's why we're the Illuminati in gaming. Peace.